All right, we are back in action. Week 5, betting you overtime. What does that mean? Well, if you're just joining us, it means we're getting greasy. We're getting into the weeds. We're getting into the weird, obscure games, but where the value is sometimes. We've already talked about Georgia and Alabama. We already talked about, Virginia Tech, Miami. That's not even a big game. It's just what I could think of off the top of my head. If you want those type of marquee matchups, betting you, the episode is live already on this channel. But I'm Ben Reza. That's Matt Kajeski. It's time to talk about teams like Western Michigan. That's right, friends. You heard us. I love this. I love getting into these type of games. You've said this a couple weeks in a row. Sometimes there's more value in these type of games.
I personally think they're more likely to be mispriced when it's, Sunday night, Monday morning. Do we really think, like sportsbook of your choice knows that the defensive tackle for Bowling Green is out, or like the left guard for so-and-so team? And those things do matter, especially when you're talking about important players. So I personally think there's more edges in this game or these types of games, because people don't pay attention to them as much. And you just have a lot of moving parts. These teams run weird offenses. You have the service academies. You have weird air raids. You have differences in levels of competition, especially heading into weeks 4, 5, and 6 after Western Michigan got blown out by Ohio State and amazing non-con teams. Then you have others that have been playing like FCS. So there's so many wrinkles to dive into that you can use to your advantage when looking at these games.
100%. If you're here, you guys know the drill. Hit that like button if you enjoy this. Subscribe to this channel. Don't miss out on all the content we're dropping for college football. A lot of great stuff. We'll talk about everything we've got going on. It's time to get into games, though. And the first couple we warm up. We're not going to just jump into the grease. We need to get acclimated. And that's what Arkansas and Texas A&M are here for. It's a 4-point spread. Don't mind this. This is where we want to be. Arkansas is a team. I didn't think they particularly played great against Auburn. They did get the job done. I think it's going to be a tougher challenge for them. What are your thoughts on this SEC clash?
That was a very kind way to frame Auburn's win, or Auburn's loss to Arkansas, Auburn's win, because they were blasted in terms of yards per play. It was 7.1 to 4.0.
Disgusting.
Yards per attempt, Arkansas allowed 8.1 to Auburn. Yards per carry, they allowed 5.6. You just go back and then you wonder how Auburn didn't win this game. Well, they had 5 turnovers. 3 of them came from their backup quarterback. When Peyton Thorne went in the game, it actually was pretty solid, and he averaged over 8 yards per pass attempt easily against this Arkansas secondary. It literally just came down to the turnovers. And funny enough, despite having 5 turnovers, the margin of victory still ended up being pretty close because Auburn has an elite defense, and when they actually put a competent quarterback in there, it was fine. So very concerning for Arkansas. They have a lot of concerning data points. A lot of their efficiency is propped up by playing Arkansas Pine Bluff and UAB, who's legitimately one of the worst defenses in the country. And then Oklahoma State, they had a good half before they let Alan Bowman absolutely dice up their secondary. And Auburn, we just discussed. Arkansas had a 7% post-game win expectancy against Auburn. Just unbelievable stuff there. Texas A&M, I think, is actually a little more complete. They played Notre Dame relatively close. That was just a pretty greasy game overall. They beat Florida by 13, and then they played a close game against Bowling Green last week. A lot of people might just scoff at that. Bowling Green is no joke. They're a pretty good G5 team. You still shouldn't win by 6, but man, Bowling Green's better than people think. Heading into this game, I actually think Texas A&M has been better with Marcel Reed under center. He has more mobility, and he can do more with this offense than what Connor Wegman can. Connor Wegman did play Notre Dame, so his efficiency metrics look a little worse. Perhaps that's just the level of competition. But man, Marcel Reed's been pretty good, and he only has 1 turnover-worthy play, so he's taking care of the ball, which is the most important thing for this offense, because they are 33rd in pass blocking. They're 26th in run blocking. A lot of people are probably going to be concerned with TJ Shanahan not playing in this game. He's already their backup center. Their third stringer, his name is hard, so forgive me. It's like Kolinau Fiao. He's a transfer from Utah. He's like one of the best possible guys you could have as a third string center. He's played more snaps than either of those players with excellent grades, especially pass blocking. And he has a full season of starting experience from Utah. He's not your ordinary third string center just popping up for Texas A&M. They did a lot in the portal, and they're very deep because of it. So I don't expect a drop off from a top 30 offensive line in the country. Le'Veon Moss has been fine. Marcel Reed, he runs well. And then you go and you look at what Arkansas's defense is allowing. I mean, this team has a lot of concerns. They're 101st in total defense, 119th in pass rush, 107th in coverage. They are 50th in run defense, but how much of that is playing Arkansas Pine Bluff? Ollie Gordon and Oklahoma State have been terrible running the ball, which is very surprising. UAB runs an air raid, and then they just gave up almost 6 yards per carry to Jarquez Hunter. So I think A&M moves the ball. Then on the other side, Taylon Green has pretty good efficiency metrics, but I actually went in, looked at them from every single individual game. Obviously, he diced up Pine Bluff. Oklahoma State is an awful secondary. UAB is a very bad defense. And then the second he plays a good team in Auburn, he looks like an absolute pumpkin out there. He had a horrible game. The offensive line is not good, 97th in pass blocking. They have a couple injuries over there. Texas A&M's defense hasn't been fantastic. They're currently 100th in pass rush, 116th in coverage, 55th against the run, 106th overall. So it's actually pretty comparable to what we've seen on the Arkansas side. But they've played better teams. Again, Bowling Green's no slouch. You played Notre Dame. Then there was an FCS team squished in between there. I think there might be a little meat left on the bone for Texas A&M. I don't think that's the case for Arkansas. I was hoping we would get a 3. I don't think it's going to get there. 4 or something in that range is a little more of a debate, but I'm probably going to take this.
I'm with you. I'm going to take it at 4. I like the spot. You mentioned, I'm not going to say that Texas A&M would be undefeated, but Wegman was really bad against Notre Dame. I know it's Notre Dame, but Reed looked infinitely better. And, you know, going into the swamp, even though Florida's not at the height of their powers, impressive showing from him. He's got mobility. I trust this team a lot more with their current iteration. It's Aggies or pass for me. Stanford, Clemson. Clemson is killing everybody. Now, when I say everybody, I mean the slappies that are on their schedule. They're like 3 touchdown favorite against all these teams, but they're scoring at will. Maybe that's a sign that Georgia's just that good and Clemson's actually a very, very good team, or maybe it's level of competition. I can't see myself getting involved in this game. It's north of 3 touchdowns, though. That is a lot of points for a Stanford team that I view as okay.
I agree with you. This was a request from our Discord channel, so I had to do the deep dive. I agree with you on Klubnik, man. People have been dunking on me on Twitter for a tweet that I probably shouldn't have put out, where I compared, basically I said DJ Uiagalelei and Cade Klubnik aren't as different as you think, and I said this in week 0. I'm still standing on it. Yeah, you mentioned the best data point out there. He's beat up on total cupcakes.
They were garbage.
Yeah, they were huge favorites. They killed NC State, who's playing in Death Valley with their freshman quarterback making his first start. I mean, what did you expect to happen? If you thought it was going to be close, like, you were way out of line with the betting markets because Clemson was a huge favorite. Anyway, we have a pretty big sample of Klubnik being average. It is good that he's taking care of business and doing what he's supposed to. Can Stanford stop him? You know, like on the scale of NC State, who's not a good team right now, and App State, all the way up to Georgia, who clobbered them. Where does Stanford slot in? I still think it's pretty low overall. If you look at Stanford's defense, they're currently 64th. They're 35th against the run, 44th in pass rush, 90th in coverage. Can you really buy it? I'm not really sure. They got diced up by Josh Hoover in their first game. They run that air raid. They played Cal Poly, who's Cal Poly, and then Kyle McCord was over 8.1 yards per attempt. They did do a good job against LaQuint Allen, but this Clemson offense should be closer to like the Josh Hoovers and Kyle McCords, if not better than, you know, the Cal Polys, who's really the one team they had success against. So I don't really buy the Stanford defense that much. They should be improved, as everything on their team should be improved. But, you know, you're going from a bottom 10 team in the country and a bottom 3 in the Power 5. You know, like, did you even get to average? That's a big question for me. When Stanford has the ball, I'm not really buying their offense. They've had a bad passing attack. Ashton Daniels has left a lot to be desired. He has the same amount of big-time throws and turnover-worthy plays. He does run a little bit, but we're not even talking 6 yards per attempt, 61.5% completion. The offensive line, again, they returned everybody, but they were so young last year. They have made a jump, but instead of being like 125th in both pass blocking and run blocking, they're 82nd in run blocking and 119th in run blocking. So they're still not good. I don't think Clemson's defense is any good right now. They actually come in 114th in total defense. But man, I think they're better than some of the defenses that Stanford has faced. So I don't know, man. It's a lot of points. But Stanford, I do think, is live to get just absolutely rolled. So I think it's just going to be a stay away.
What about over 57.5?
That's somewhat interesting. Stanford, 37th in pace, 53.5% pass rate. Clemson, 58th in pace, 54% pass rate. Clemson's defensive efficiency metrics are bad. And Stanford, I don't really buy. So the one thing that I will kind of bring up as a question with this, a lot of Clemson's production allowed defensively has been when they're absolutely beating the snot out of teams. Mm-hmm. What do you think of that? I mean, they took some guys out. CJ Bailey ended up with a great box score, but it was basically all in the second half. NC State had something ridiculous. Like, they had 21 fourth quarter points.
Yeah, I mean, you even saw against App State, there was like no scoring in the second half from Clemson. I kind of look at it, though, as, in a way, if Clemson does so much damage early, we can get there like that. I think that Stanford will be able, even against the first string, to manufacture something. If I'm not in love with this game at all, if I bet it, it would be the over. That I'll say that much.
We do like Stanford's coach. He's building literally from ground zero, and he's done a good job recruiting, but he's still in his second year. Those recruits at best are sophomores, and a lot of them are still freshmen.
Yeah, keep an eye on it. Houston and Iowa State. Iowa State quietly just doing what they need to do. I would hope this isn't a spot to get tripped up, but maybe it is. I mean, Houston played Oklahoma close. I really don't know what's going on with that team, to be honest. It's just north of 14. What do you make of this game?
It was 13.5. I passed right away. I don't know if I'm going to take a 14.5. The hook always just scares me, and perhaps this is a personal flaw. It's Iowa State or pass. I love this Iowa State team, and some of the results we've seen from the Big 12, I think, make us feel better about our futures. I know we were both pretty optimistic on this team heading into the season. The only real concerns I have are still on defense. They're extremely thin at linebacker. Will McLaughlin's still out. Caleb Bacon's still out. They've been able to paper over that well enough. They returned almost their whole defense, which was an extremely good unit last year. So I'm not terribly surprised. It's just, a slight concern. But I think they are getting better. They had 2 players in the offensive line return and see their first action of the year in their most recent game. So I'm still buying this offense. I think their O-line is, 115th in pass blocking, but 88th in run blocking. Getting back Travis and Hastert should be a big boost to their O-line with time. Otherwise, they have a lot of stuff to like. Rocco Becht has been awesome, very efficient. Run game with Abu Sama, he's been banged up too, so that's been efficient. They have 2 elite receivers. Houston is just on top of being a team in a first year under a new head coach. They've had a ton of injuries, a lot on defense. Like Carlos Allen, a defensive tackle, got hurt in the game. They don't have Corey Platt. He's been out for the year. They've had some players in the offensive line already go down. So I don't think they were working from a great base of talent to begin with. And then when you start getting players dinged up, it's just not really a recipe for success, in my opinion. Right now, they're 130th in pass rush. If you wanted to poke a hole in Iowa State's offense, it's still the O-line. Again, I think they're better than the efficiency metrics show because of health stuff. But Houston's 130th in pass rush. They're actually decent in run defense and coverage, 42nd in both of those. But they have a fatal flaw. And when you're playing a team that has a high caliber offense, it could just be toast. Iowa State legitimately might be the best offense that Houston's faced this year. And they just played, a pretty good Indiana team. So I don't know, man. I don't think they're going to be able to stop Rocco Becht. And when they're on offense, they're using 2 quarterbacks. They benched Donovan Smith again, second time he's been benched this year. The backup's actually Zion Chris from Louisiana. Like him a lot. He offers more in the run game. So perhaps that's something that they can use to their advantage. But still, at the beginning of the year, your coaching staff deemed that Donovan Smith gave you the better chance to win than Zion Chris. I don't know. That's also very tough for me to look into and say anything with confidence. Iowa State's defense is awesome, man. I don't think that Houston has a lot of success moving the ball, platooning quarterbacks behind an offensive line that's questionable. The only thing that's tripping me up is the hook, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the hook's not ideal, but this is a team They scored no points against Cincinnati. Cincinnati absolutely smoked them. Now, that was on the road, no doubt about it, but I'm not betting Houston. It's one of these games, like, I hate to play it like that, but it's just like there's no situation where I would bet Houston. So now I got to look, can I find a 14? And there are a couple out there. I want to be clear. If you have numerous options, you just go to OddsShopper and shop the live odds screen. You can find a 14.
I think I might have said Indiana accidentally.
Yeah, you did.
That's Sorsby's old team.
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Ben.
No, I got you. They were dominated 34-0. So, yeah, I think Iowa State's going to have bigger tests than this. I'll leave it at that. North Carolina and Duke. I asked you the other day, I think it was actually on the other episode, and you mentioned to me, North Carolina, as disgraceful as it is to give up 70, they're not working with a full allotment of resources right now. The team that we saw play Minnesota is not the team that is out there now. So how true is that statement still? And for that reason, are they the rightful underdog against a Duke team that I'm really not that high on?
Probably, but man, I'm probably going to bet this in favor of North Carolina. It doesn't feel good. This is definitely greasy.
Yeah.
It makes sense. We're in the greasy episode. Their health is a little better. They still don't have a quarterback. They've been going between Criswell and Harrell. Criswell's been bad. He has a 60% completion, just shy of that. 8.9 yards per attempt is okay, but 2 big-time throws, 5 turnover-worthy plays. He's run hot on turnovers. He's not running like we thought he would, and part of that is just sacks. Their offensive line is still pretty damn good, though. They're 12th in both pass blocking and run blocking in terms of efficiency. It's a shockingly good unit, and they had to replace a lot. They recruit pretty well in the O-line, so I'm not terribly surprised. And Omari and Hampton's still there. You have Nesbitt. You're getting back Nate McCullum for this game. I think the receiving core should be better with some health stuff. Christian Hamilton's out, but I don't think he's one of their better players anyway. So I think they will be able to move the ball. When you look at Duke's defense, I'm not really buying it. They're 29th. They're 97th against the run. So again, that's a huge mismatch in favor of North Carolina. But I think their opponents have probably inflated their coverage numbers. They played Mike Wright the week he got, this is the reason he got benched, was his performance against this Duke team. They played Nick Evers, who's been horrifying for UConn. And then they played Nick Vadiato for Middle Tennessee State, who had 3.8 yards per attempt. I don't know that they've faced a single quarterback that's even in the top 100 if you were just to rank all the signal callers from all 134 FBS teams. So, there's a really good chance these coverage numbers are worse than we think, and they've already shown cracks in run defense. They allowed over 5 yards per carry to every back they faced this year. That's a starter. And Kretl for Middle Tennessee State was at 10.4 yards per carry. It's a bad defense, especially up front. On the other side, I'm no Malik Murphy fan. I think he's certainly benefited from a lot of these matchups as well. And I think the O-line's probably worse than the numbers we're looking at. 29th in pass blocking, 58th in run blocking. They lost a ton of guys, including NFL players. They only had 2 starters back. So I'm just not really buying Duke anywhere. Can they exploit North Carolina on defense? I mean, probably. What we saw last time out was horrifying. They're still 70th in efficiency, 25th against the run, 72nd in pass rush, 91st in coverage. So, I mean, they're surprisingly better than I thought. But, man, that James Madison game was alarming. And it wasn't all just the non-offensive touchdowns, which James Madison had a fair amount of. They had special team scores, defensive scores, but they still averaged 8.4 yards per play to North Carolina's 7.8. That's a ton of yards to be giving up to James Madison. So, I don't know. I'm hesitant. I do like that they're healthier. The biggest injury for North Carolina right now is K'Mon Rucker, their defensive edge. He's still out. He's probably their best player on defense. So that is a big loss, but I don't know, man. I think it's them or pass because I'm definitely not playing Duke.
No, unfortunately, the threes have disappeared pretty quickly. There's one out there, but you got to lay some juice. Duke played Elon. Can't forget that week 0. The Phoenix, but I'm with you. I mean, oh man, are we really gonna do this? This is greasy. This is real greasy because I don't trust North Carolina at all. But I've been looking for spots to short Duke. I tried against Northwestern and I should have got there and I didn't. haven't really done anything since with them.
I did the same. I think the threes are going to come back. A lot of the 2.5s are seriously juiced.
Yes, they are. That is fair. That is definitely fair. If a reasonable three pops up, again, it's a perfect time to mention what we've got going on in Discord, in Tails. If you haven't been over there, come on in. We've got absolutely awesome communities. You come here, you go to Discover Insiders, right on the Oddshopper page. You see all different people. You've got me, you've got Matt. If you're looking for a community and extra picks and the ability to converse with us, it's right here. Come on in and give it a try. The links are below. Sign up and you're in. Really worth it. We have so many people in there now. The community is growing and growing and growing, and it's super exciting. It's what we always envisioned. We both love college football. College basketball will be here soon enough. Really good stuff. Really good time to get involved. Now, moving on to Wake Forest, another team that realistically I'm just no feel for. And they take on everyone's going to, like conference games, and they just take on Louisiana for reasons. I don't really understand this, but more power to you. 3.5, 4-point spread. Go ahead. I really don't know what to do with Louisiana. I watched them play either last week or 2 weeks ago, and they actually looked okay. I can't hear you. You've done something.
I muted myself when I was talking.
Okay, that'll do it.
We're back.
Okay, we're back.
Yeah, Louisiana played Tulane pretty close.
Yeah, that's the game I watched. Yep.
They outgained Tulane too. Pretty soundly, 6.8 yards per play to 5.5. And yeah, man, I mean, they threw a pick six. They had a turnover on down at their own 26, which honestly led to a missed field goal, so that didn't matter. But then they had an interception at the end of the game. They also dropped an interception in the game that was a really pivotal play. Would have definitely given them a chance to win, but you can't just drop picks. Volatile game, but they're a pretty decent team. Wake Forest, they played a conference game in week 2, so they still have remember they played that Virginia game randomly?
Yeah, it's very shady.
That was a very shady game. They should have won probably 31-30. But yeah, so they have an extra non-con game to play yet. I should have I think I'm just going to go back to spraying the board last week. We would have had so much closing line value if I wasn't shook by the results so far. But I don't know, man. Wake Forest was inside a field goal. Now they're outside. It's always the hook that makes me nervous late in the week, but I think we could be potentially buying low on this team. Some of the concerns I have are injury related. Donovan Green did pull his hamstring again. He didn't play in the second half of their last game. They still have been rotating offensive linemen, and they've been pretty decent on the O-line, so I'm not sure 100% why. They're 77th in pass blocking, 78th in run blocking. Their run game's been okay. And I think as long as Green is all right, they actually have decent receivers. Their defense, not terrible overall. Again, they've played some decent teams. So Dart and Colandrea, I think, really were able to take advantage of this defense. 115th overall against a team that's a little worse like Louisiana. I think those numbers probably rise. Louisiana's played a lot of cupcakes until Tulane, and the big thing I saw there was Mekhi Hughes for Tulane. 7.2 yards per carry allowed. That's a really bad mark. And they were still able to stop Tulane's offense, but it's not like Tulane of old. Tulane has a lot of concerns. They have an entirely new offensive line. They're going through a coaching change. So I'm not sure how good the win is. The biggest thing and what I think it comes down to is you have a shockingly efficient quarterback in Bachmeier. He's done a great job taking care of the ball. An O-line that's underrated. Are we just potentially a little too low on Wake Forest after they got blasted by Ole Miss?
Ole Miss might be, and Ole Miss does that too. When you lose to Ole Miss, you give up 700 yards, and Dart and that team just have an outrageous offense. So I'm kind of with you. Even at 3.5, you could have 3.5 at -108. I'm okay with that. Maybe even a money line parlay. Use Wake. I got to check that number, but I think Wake Forest gets it done. Simple as that.
If I could go back in time, I would definitely take the 2.5, which I had a ton of value on before I opted out. 3.5 is a little more of a debate. I plan on taking a lot of these games on, I don't know, later today, Friday or Saturday. There's no real reason to rush to the window to bet Wake right now. If Louisiana takes late money and you can get a 3, that would benefit you.
Definitely. No rush. And like I said, most of my card again, is going to be dropped in Discord, in the next 24 to 48 hours. And I feel pretty good about it, honestly. I've been waiting and
Me
it's been
too.
no problem. Ah, yes, here we go. This team has cost me. They did cover for me against Northwestern State, but Tulsa, I don't know what they're going. Both these teams, actually, this game shouldn't even exist because we both backed North Texas against Texas Tech, and they legitimately gave up 40 points in a quarter of football. What is going on with this game? I don't even know the number, but I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I'm looking closely at an over. I got to see what this is.
That's at 68 and a half.
Okay. Well, that's pretty high, but still.
Especially with Tulsa's kicker, who I know has not done you favors.
It just I don't understand.
I'm sorry.
Because, no, I just don't understand. If you know that the guy can't kick, I'll say this much. What that really does is lead to crazy variance because Tulsa ends up going for it all the time because they in some ways know. But my God, I don't understand that whole situation. I do think that Tulsa can and will move the ball here.
I think they will too. I also think North Texas, I think both of these teams have kind of run pretty cold, which makes sense because you and I have bet them both.
Yeah, that's right.
Especially me. I mean, like anything I touch just runs colder than ice right now. But yeah, even last week was closer than it should have been. Tulsa severely outgained Louisiana Tech in a yards per play basis. They just had a lot of gross stuff again. I mean, Louisiana Tech certainly had gross stuff too. They had 3 turnovers. But again, like we're betting Kirk Francis. He's been solid. He has 11 big time throws. He does have 5 turnover-worthy plays. So got to take care of it a little bit more. That's definitely led to some problems. But this O-line's been pretty decent. 89th in pass blocking, 57th in run blocking. That's a pretty decent O-line. They've done a bunch of weird stuff on defense. I think they're pretty damn hard to evaluate. They've been rotating a ton of guys. I don't know if it's something they plan on doing long-term or if they're really, truly trying to evaluate stuff. But man, North Texas, I think, kind of has a fatal flaw, which honestly I overlooked a lot in the beginning of the year because I thought they were deep in their secondary. But man, they had 3 guys arrested in the offseason who are projected to contribute. None of them have played yet. Their coach was actually asked about it in the press conference this week, and he just said he doesn't have any update because it's not up to him. This defense is 91st. They're 64th against the run, 129th in pass rush, and shockingly 80th in coverage just by giving up a ton of productions. So I don't know, man. Tulsa's still 36th in offensive efficiency. Francis has been good. They have an elite alpha receiver in Camden Benjamin, who's been awesome this year. I don't think North Texas can stop him, man, to be honest with you. When you look at what North Texas has allowed, 8.8 yards per attempt to Gio Lopez. I'm still not fully buying him. We'll see. But then they played an FCS team and they played Svoboda. In between them, they allowed 14.4 yards per attempt to Baron Morton and 6.4 yards per carry to Taj Brooks. So I still don't think the defense is any good. I do believe that Francis is probably somewhere around Gio Lopez rather than Baron Morton, but Francis has been successful against other teams, and they haven't played cupcakes either. They have a mutual opponent, actually, or they don't have a mutual opponent, excuse me, but they played Oklahoma State. They were very good at moving the ball in that game. They just kicked a bunch of field goals. Now, they don't exactly have a great defense themselves, but I mean, it's still a P4 team. On the other side, I'm concerned with North Texas. They've had a lot of injuries. They're on their 4th string running back. One of their top receivers, Damon Ward, is day-to-day. He might miss this game. So their offense basically has kind of been living through superhero Chandler Morris, and they're not getting a lot around him. This team is the worst offensive line out of the 2, 80th in pass blocking, 105th in run blocking. Their receivers aren't giving him a lot. We talked about Texas Tech. 2 of those interceptions were straight up tips from the receivers who should have caught the ball right into Texas Tech defenders. So no good O-line. Receivers are questionable. One of them's hurt. 4th-string running back. Chandler Morris has awesome metrics, but he's got to be superhero, do it on his own. And, I mean, this team is a 13% drop rate. 13% of Morris's passes have been dropped. And some of those aren't drops. They're tips to the other team. I don't really think there's a strong defense for Tulsa, to your point on looking at the over immediately.
No.
But, man, I mean, the reason I won't bet an over is because both these teams are so turnover prone, like highly variant. Yeah, really dumb, bad kickers. But, man, I think they're pretty even. And I'm honestly considering Tulsa just buying low on them. I don't like that they're away, and I don't like how variant both of these teams are. But I mean, if you're going to give me a touchdown, I will at least debate Tulsa.
I might bet Tulsa on the money line, to be honest, because it's such a high variance game. If I'm getting, plus 215, something like that, I might just do it because I could see anything happening here. No joke.
I think Tulsa has the better schedule so far, like strength.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Tulsa can move the ball. I watched the Oklahoma State game from start to finish because I had the over. Tulsa was marching. Now, Oklahoma State's defense is trash, but North Texas isn't exactly Georgia, so let's not get crazy. Before the season, if we were talking about for the G5 games, I think Liberty and App State would have been on that list. I'm not sure that's the case now, but the books are saying it is. Maybe that's an indication that Liberty just hasn't been as crisp as people expected because App State's been horrible, in my opinion. This is only a 3-point spread. Liberty is away, so I get it a little bit. But, man, what are we saying here that they expect App State to be very competitive in this spot?
It's surprising to me. If you wanted to buy low on App State's talent, I think you could. There's a lot of reasons why I don't think that's a good idea. I'm far more likely to buy low on Liberty. I dove into every one of their box scores, just like the efficiency metrics, underlying metrics, why are their games so close? And I think a lot of it's been just terribly fluky. They beat New Mexico State by 6 points. They outgained them 7.4 yards per play to 4.3. A lot of just crazy, weird stuff. Penalties. Liberty missed a field goal. They had a turnover on down inside New Mexico State territory. So, I mean, yeah, they struggled early in that game, but you just look at the amount of production they allowed versus what they gained. That's a strong buy low indication. UTEP, they outgained them 6.7 to 4.6. There was a bunch of stupid stuff there too. They had more turnovers, 2 of them in this game. Again, I think it's just Liberty, penalties, fumbles, killed drives where they were otherwise moving the ball. East Carolina's a decent team. The only problem East Carolina has is their quarterback turns it over a lot. That was a very close game, but Liberty's still 5.4 yards per play to ECU's 4.9. I think App State is pretty clearly towards like the UTEP range versus ECU. The results for App State have been horrifying, and this team has a lot of concerns. They only returned 2 offensive linemen because they, benched Ramsey, and unfortunately, like one of their tackles died this offseason. So what looked like a great offensive line on paper ended up being one they needed to portal a lot of guys to try to help. Aguilar has been bad. He has a 56.7% completion. Same amount of big-time throws as turnover-worthy plays, 7 apiece. Not running the ball a lot. The O-line, again, has concerns, 52nd in pass blocking, but they're 106th in run blocking. That's been a huge problem. They can't run the ball. And I think they believed Kanye Roberts might have been the problem. They tried to bench him for Anderson Castle. That didn't work. The defense has a lot of problems. We saw Gio Lopez absolutely dominate them. Currently, they're 92nd in total defense. They're not really good anywhere. They're 85th against the run, 110th in coverage. Salter's dynamic, man. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the G5. I think there's a chance he gets drafted because of his like dual threat ability. The O-line for Liberty is very strong. They're currently 83rd in pass blocking, 7th in run blocking. But if you just look at dropbacks, it's an extremely small sample on what they've allowed pass blocking. And they've had one of their guards injured all year, John Paul Flores. He actually returned in their last game and played really well. This is a P5 transfer. So I think there's even room for growth on the offensive line. They also didn't have Quinton Cooley for a little bit. He's back now. He's their stud running back. If you wanted to poke one hole in Liberty, I think their receivers are worse after they lost Daniels to LSU. And then they've had one of their guys got arrested. They had another injury. But that's really your only concern on offense for me. And then what App State is a sieve on defense. It doesn't even matter. On the other side, Liberty's defense has been pretty solid. I don't know if App State can really take advantage of this. I'm surprised it's a 3-man. I don't know. What do you think?
Maybe it's just because I'm guilty of this as many can be. Maybe I'm just overrating what I saw in the South Alabama game. I cannot stress how bad App State's defense was, and Aguilar did not look particularly good on the other side. App State scored on a Hail Mary. That was the only good play that they had at the end of the half. That was about it. just a full domination of a team that I'm not bullish on South Alabama at all. So you mentioned the dual threat ability. Like, I think Liberty is definitely a couple steps above what App State's already seen.
I agree with you. And I think you could poke holes in some of Liberty's defensive stuff. Currently, they're 32nd. Their level of competition is bad. But they returned 10 starters. And they added, looking at my numbers right now, what, like 9 transfers, 10 transfers on defense? I think we can go back to last year and assume this unit's going to be pretty good over the long term. 32nd, again, is already good, but I wouldn't be poking a hole in level of competition stuff.
There we have it. Let's keep it moving. Texas State, our friends. I haven't thought about them since they buried me against Arizona State. Just brutal stuff. But the Tide's turning 8.5 against Sam Houston. I like Sam Houston in life. Talk about running bad. I thought they ran really, really poor last year. They weren't nearly as bad as that record indicated. Just couldn't find the wins. I still don't know if I want to mess around with them against Texas State. Texas State has their own faults. There's no doubt. But when they keep it clean, they rack up the points. Is that what you see here?
I think so. It's Texas State or pass. They're off a bye, which I think is solid. But, man, it's the same stuff that gives me pause every week. I don't know that they figured out the fumble stuff. They have a lot of...
Isn't fumbling not a real thing? Am I wrong to say that? Like, fumbling is somewhat random?
You would think so. And I typically think so. But there, comes a point in time where you do it so much where it's like, this can't possibly be random. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. It's not random with that. I just mean in general, turnovers are pretty fluky.
Yeah, they generally are a stat that is very fluky. But again, we're like on 2 years. So
I know. I just can't with that.
This is me maybe trying to outsmart myself. I don't know if I should really be looking into this so much, but yeah, man. So they still have one of the highest fumbling rates in the country. Again, who would have thought? They're averaging 1 fumble loss per game, which is pretty bad. It doesn't even include the ones they recover themselves. Anyway, the offense I think is awesome. McLeod is a solid transfer, 67.5% completion, 8.1 yards per attempt. Underlying stuff's good, 4.9 yards per carry, runs the ball just fine. O-line has been a real strength for this team, 4th in pass blocking, 85th in run blocking is what it is. You still have like a very, very strong metric to go on. Their defense, it's got some problems. I think they're strong somewhere. Like they're 87th overall. They're awesome against the run. Their D-line is very good. 42nd in run defense, 13th in pass rush. Their fatal flaw has been their defensive backs. They're 117th there. So can Sam Houston exploit this? I actually think Sam Houston has some pretty awesome receivers. They returned like a day from injury last year, and they returned a lot of production already. The problem for them has been Hunter Watson has been horrifying. We dissed DeQuan Finn a lot on the first show. Hunter Watson might be worse. 58% completion, 6.4 yards per attempt, 5 touchdowns, 5 picks, underlying, 2 Big Ten throws, 9 turnover-worthy plays, 9, and he got benched in their last game for Jace Bauer. Based on this coaching staff press conference, I don't think Jace Bauer is going to get the nod. It was a game that wasn't really close. And they basically just spoke to, all right, like we wanted to get Bauer some work. It was a plan we had. I don't know. So I don't think Hunter Watson is anything to write home about. And perhaps it's not his fault. It's not like the O-line has been good. 33% pressure rate, 109th in pass blocking, 126th in run blocking. So they're not doing him any favors. The run game hasn't been good. It's kind of just been these receivers trying to bail him out. And I got to give them some credit. They are awesome. But I don't know, man. Like that's the worst part of your game. Now you have to go up against, like Texas State is going to be an enormous mismatch against that O-line. That D-line O-line mismatch is one of the bigger ones this week. That's going to be hard. And then when Sam Houston has the ball, they have a decent defense. They're 57th overall, 131st against the run, which is really important because they returned most of their defensive production except defensive tackle. They didn't have anyone back who started, and they just lost their best defensive tackle to a broken leg in their last game, Matthew Arabisala. Otherwise, they've been pretty decent. Like they're 15th in coverage. But man, I think Texas State probably just runs it down their throat. The problem I have is I think this is going to move in favor of Sam Houston. So I don't want to bet it right now. But I'm debating Texas State. They also run the kind of offense that they'll just bury you when they're having success. So yes, they could easily run away with this.
No doubt about it. Yeah, keep an eye on it. Again, that number is bouncing already all over the place.
What do you see now? What is that?
I see 9, 8.5, and 8.
Oh.
So a lot of disagreements out there.
No consensus.
No, nobody knows. And they're all at -110. So I don't know what that really means. There's a lot out there.
I was hoping for a 7, but if you like the number, you can get it pretty easily.
We're chipping away little by little. Let's have a bet again. I'll mention it right now. If you've got some extra money, Bet365 can do it for you. That's a bonus bet type bet. How do you get bonus bets? Pretty simple. If Bet365 is in your state, bet $5. Bet it on any one of these games. It doesn't matter because win or lose, you're getting 200 in bonus bets. It's that simple. The link is below. You do have to be 21 plus 18 Kentucky. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. But man, with so many games and so many sports going on, this is the type of offer that can really help you. $200 in bonus bets. Links are below. Check out Bet365 always if it's in your state. Now, we got a couple games left here, and then we'll get rapid fire. We'll give some best bets. Don't worry about it. We got you guys covered. Western Michigan and Marshall. Western Michigan somehow snuck into the intro of this show, so it better be worth it. I'm on the other side of this game, though. This is dipped to 3 in most spots. I think for me, I'm interested in Marshall, particularly with how much of a market correction we've seen in this game.
I agree with you. This opened at like 6.
Yeah.
It was when I immediately showed value on Western Michigan, but it's sort of like crossing where I show value. And now it's like becoming debatable on the Marshall side. Both of these teams have played the same type of schedule. It's basically just been death by P4 team followed by FCS because, you know, Western played Bethune-Cookman and Marshall played Stony Brook. But otherwise, like Marshall played VT, Virginia Tech, and Ohio State. Western Michigan, Wisconsin, and Ohio State. Western actually hung in that game against Wisconsin fairly well. But we move forward here. I think it has gone a little bit too far. And honestly, I just think it's because the one data point, Western hanging with Wisconsin fairly well. And it was largely their defense. But, I mean, what do you think? Was that Western Michigan standing up, being an awesome defense, or does Wisconsin just have a lot of problems?
Oh, I'd say I'm not going to take everything away from it, but I would say it's more that Wisconsin has some real issues because they didn't look. I don't want to start cherry picking other games, but like Wisconsin followed that game up with an FCS opponent in South Dakota. They didn't look particularly good there either.
This is noisy, but I currently have Western Michigan efficiency-wise, just power rating efficiency-wise, 129th in total defense, 132nd against the run, 111th in pass rush, and 89th in coverage. They allowed 8.3 yards per pass attempt to an FCS quarterback, and Bethune-Cookman is not like a great FCS team. He almost doubled. Ransom is their quarterback. He almost doubled what Tyler Van Dyke put on the field. I mean, this might be just a straight indictment on Tyler Van Dyke at this point, but man, that's horrifying. Obviously, Ohio State killed them. So I do think that part is noisy. You're just never going to face offenses like Ohio State the rest of the year. But honestly, how different is that from Marshall? They did a decent job stopping drones. He was at just 6.2 yards per attempt. Virginia Tech had success running, so that's noteworthy. But then Will Howard diced them up even worse than what he did against Western Michigan. So I don't know. Just looking at the straight efficiency metrics, I think Marshall's performed a little better. Just comparing them on defense, have Marshall 66th, Western Michigan 129th. They're both terrible defending the run. Coverage, Marshall's 20th, Western Michigan 89th. On offense, there is an edge Western Michigan's direction, which is interesting because I think largely that just comes down to quarterback play. And Hayden Wolf has been good. There's no denying it. But I don't think he's done a lot himself. 67% completion percentage, 9.9 yards per attempt. He only has one big-time throw and 2 turnover-worthy plays. So he's not really doing it a lot himself. When teams can take away some of the skill players, you know, like can Hayden Wolf elevate an offense? We've seen him start a lot of football games, and I don't think he's that guy. their offensive line is allowing a 48% pressure rate. When you adjust for competition, they come in 94th in pass blocking, 97th in run blocking. Do you think Stone Earl is better than Hayden Wolf? I don't know if I'm ready to go there yet, but he can run more than Hayden Wolf. I think the O-line it's at least comparable. 57th in pass blocking to 108th in run blocking.
Hayden Wolf's the guy from Old Dominion, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just wanting to make sure I'm thinking of the right guy.
Yeah, Hayden Wolf, we've known him for a long time.
He's played a lot of football, and it hasn't been, I think he's serviceable, but yeah, I'm not. Like I said, Marshall should be able to handle this. I don't know. Marshall could have. There was a world. Virginia Tech is a mess, but Marshall's been fine
so far. Yeah, the only reason Stone Earl has been bad, but I don't know if this should really worry you that much because they do have Braylon Braxton behind him. Cole Pennington shouldn't play, but Cole Pennington even has starting experience. Their run game is pretty good. They added a lot of very talented receivers. They returned 2 starters, but Elijah Metcalf came over from Middle Tennessee State. We already talked about the O-line. It's been decent. And then there's no one really hurt. The only guy that's injured for them is Isaiah Gibson on the defensive line. That's a spot where they added 7 transfers, and they have 2 other starters back already. I think a pretty decent secondary overall. Again, they've been blasted by Ohio State, and then they actually did a good job against drones. But they had 5 starters back in their secondary. That was a unit that was pretty good last year. So I don't know. I think you are buying low on Marshall right now. I didn't play this yet. I'm not sure it's done moving. But, I mean, I wanted to play Western Michigan. It just moved so fast and so far that now I'm considering the other side.
If it gets to 2.5, it's definitely on my card. I can guarantee it. I still might bet it at 3, though. All right, Navy, and talk about stylistic differences. Navy and UAB are clashing this week. UAB is pretty bad. There's no doubt about it. Navy, I think, not unanimously, but it's them or Army. There's only 3 of them, and it's not Air Force. They might be the best academy this year. They look pretty good. Are they just simply going to grind up UAB? Is UAB even remotely prepared to stop something like this?
The best thing UAB has in their favor is they're off a bye, so they've had 2 weeks to prepare for this.
That is huge.
Unlike Temple, who has 4 days against Army. Good luck. But they have a ton of prep time. I don't know if it's going to matter. UAB is 133rd in run defense. I don't know the team that's worse than them off the top of my head, but this is the 2nd worst run defense in the entire country. And I don't know, man. It's been a relatively easy schedule. Obviously, Arkansas diced them up on the ground with Taylon Green and Quinton Jackson. But other than that, you played Alcorn State and Louisiana Monroe, and you got killed by Louisiana Monroe. They allowed a lot of rushing production to that team, too. I mean, that's not the team you can be messing around with. And it was closer yards per play than the box score indicates. But point still stands. You're allowing a ton of production to Monroe. I mean, I think that is very, very telling. And then you see it, 133rd defensive efficiency against the run. Now you have to defend Navy. How good has Blake Horvath been, man? Have you caught Navy's games yet this year?
So I saw them a little against Memphis. I've just been impressed with Navy in general, though.
And we did think coming into the year they would be the best service academy, largely just because they had the most returning production. And a lot of that's on their offensive line. They returned all but 1 starter. Both their running backs are back. They did lose their quarterback, but Horvath had already played some time. He's been pretty good as a passer, too. Obviously, they're not going to ask him to do it a lot.
Been awesome.
Sorry?
Yeah, he's just been awesome in general, yeah.
Yeah, some of it is, other teams falling asleep, but he's also averaging 10.8 yards per carry. And the Navy offensive line is 6th in run blocking so far, so a lot of it is they're just creating a ton of space. The defense has been good for this team. The biggest concern I really have is their defensive line, which makes sense. That is the unit that replaced the most in the entire team. They lost both their defensive tackles. Both their edges are back, but they're kind of playing a little bit of musical chairs inside. UAB is an air raid team. They don't run the ball a lot, so that shouldn't even really be that exploitable. The secondary for Navy has been awesome so far. So this is just a brutal matchup, both sides of the ball for UAB. I'm kicking myself for not taking, I believe it was 3. It might have even been 2.5, but 3.5 I think is still probably good. I mean, I might just click this right now.
Navy's on the card for me. I haven't submitted it because there's 3.5s everywhere, but Navy is just they're good. They know who they are. You can prep for weeks. If you don't have the personnel, you don't have the personnel. They don't have the personnel to stop this. It's just not going to work for UAB.
Do you think it goes to 3, or do you think it's more likely to go to 4?
I think it's more likely to go to 4 personally.
Okay, so we should just take this.
That's just my thought. I don't know. I mean,
I agree with you. So I no disagreement.
Yeah. I'm looking right now. There's nothing major, but a couple of the 3.5s are at -115. So it's maybe starting to creep that way, but I'm fine with it. I think that Navy just, and if the thing with Navy is pretty binary. If you can't stop them, you're pretty much out of options because they'll just keep doing it.
Who was that Navy QB? Maybe like 5 years ago, that was a stud. What was that guy's name?
Keegan Reynolds?
No, I think it was after him. Man, he was in the NFL for a little bit.
That's not the guy who was in the NFL?
Was it him?
I thought he was like on the Ravens.
I don't know, but Blake Horvath might. I'm going to go back and look. So,
I mean, Keegan Reynolds was on the Ravens.
It had to have been him then. Who?
He
Why
was
I thinking someone else?
He played from 2012 to 2015.
That is very good. Wow, they had some bad quarterbacks after him.
Yeah, now you got me.
Oh, the other this Keegan Reynolds was awesome. He wasn't the one I was thinking of. I was thinking of Malcolm Perry.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him. Also a stud.
Blake Horvath early returns are like on that level so far. We need more games, but man, has he been impressive.
No doubt.
Keegan Reynolds and Malcolm Perry sightings on the show.
Woo. What a show. Central Michigan and San Diego State. Why? Just why?
I almost went to this game.
Where the hell was that? I don't even know. They're not in Kalamazoo, are they?
No, that's Western. They're in Mount Pleasant.
I don't even know what that.
Western Michigan has a beautiful campus. If you ever get a chance to go see a Broncos game in Kalamazoo, it's awesome. And if UMass joins the MAC, you might have to.
I might have. Well, I'm getting ready to go down to Athens. Take it on. Show them what's up. In a couple of weeks, you better get ready. 2.5 point spread. Central Michigan, that FIU loss looks worse and worse by the day, but I'm no fan of San Diego State. What do you make of this? This is an ugly matchup.
Another one I should have bet immediately was Central Michigan. San Diego State, man, like we got to figure out what Danny O'Neill's timeline is. This guy, do you know when his timeline is? I could not find any info on it. Okay, this guy, Javance, his last name is tough. Tupawada Johnson, I believe is how you say it. So he has one start, and he went out there and completed less than 45% of his passes, 5.4 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 1 big-time throw, and 5 turnover-worthy plays in 1 game. The O-line has been pretty bad, 76th in pass blocking, 51st in run blocking. So honestly, you probably would have thought it would be worse. But, man, this quarterback situation might just be a straight fatal flaw for this team, which is kind of troubling because I think their roster is actually not too bad alongside it. But I'm also just worried like this team might be completely cooked and guys are quitting because of the results they've got. They already had one of their receivers, and a guy who contributes, Balin Brooks, decided to do the Bear Alexander thing and transfer. So he's not going to play. But their run game and their receiving game, just looking at the players that they have in both those categories, the skill players, they both rank in the top 60 in terms of efficiency. So I do think they're limited by the O-line and the quarterback, especially if O'Neal can't get back. Defense has actually been pretty good for this team. They're 71st overall, 69th against the run, 70th in pass rush, 69th in coverage. You know, nothing great, but better than you'd expect. And they did hold Giovanni McCoy, that's Oregon State's quarterback, to 7 yards per attempt. Cal's QB, Fernando Mendoza, was at 6.8. So, you know, when these P4 teams are coming to play San Diego State's not being a complete sieve on defense. So I don't know. Like I do want to buy low on this team probably at some point, but the QB thing has been such a fatal flaw for them. And honestly, it's kind of been the same for Central Michigan because Joe Labas has 6 interceptions. He's cost them a lot. Now he only has 7 turnover-worthy plays, so they're being converted at an unsustainable rate. but he's still putting the ball in harm's way a ton. Fortunately, we did see Burt Emanuel return in their last game. He's like, they use him as a gadget player. I wish they would just let him play quarterback all the time because I don't think Labas is it. But anyway, he's now back and playing some snaps, 4.7 yards per carry immediately, 33 yards in his first game. Their O-line is really bad too, 124th in pass blocking, 101st in run blocking. So part of it's not Labas's fault, but getting a guy who can move in Emanuel might help your offense. I wish they would just do that. They're pretty hurt across the board. Tyson Davis and Stephen Bracey, two of their starting receivers, have been out. They've had injuries to Vaishon Bailey and Brady Plusha on the O-line. They've been in and out. Reporting's bad, so who knows if they play in this game. But yeah, man, I would have a lot more interest in San Diego State if we knew it wasn't Javance playing. Defense
What about under?
What's the number?
I like the under. It's under 53.5.
Okay. San Diego State, 14th in pace with the Candle offense. Or what's that guy's name? I forget. Their head coach, the guy from Colorado's OC, former Kent State.
Oh.
Head coach. I get him confused with the Toledo head coach sometimes because their colors
never remember this guy's
close.
name.
Anyway, it's the former Kent State head coach who plays at the speed of light. So
Brian Dutcher.
It's not him. Is it? I have this. I'll pull it up in a second. But surprisingly, Central Michigan
should let him play. That's hilarious. I realize who that is. They should just let him coach both teams.
Sean Lewis. God, not Candle. Candle's the Toledo head coach. I always get these two confused.
There are too many coaches.
Sean Lewis.
I never would have. That was not something I could have thought of. I don't know who that is.
Yeah. Watch. This is back when Kent State was good. He was their head coach. Then Deion took him and fired him mid-season.
Well, under 53.5. You mentioned the tempo. I don't really care. The efficiency is that bad.
It is that bad. And again, both defenses will surprise you. San Diego State 67th, Central Michigan 71st. I did not think they were going to be high for either team.
Just keep an eye on that one. All right. Let's go rapid fire time. What do you say? Is there anything else you want to get to? And then we'll do best bets.
I don't think so. Those were mostly requests.
Yeah. Do it for our audience.
You want to talk about Akron?
Akron? No, I don't even know who Akron's playing. Who's Akron?
Ohio.
Oh no, there's some really. Let me just say this: Kent State hasn't scored in weeks. No joke. They could be okay in this game at 15.5. There's a world where they're okay.
I think Eastern Michigan is terrible, but Kent State is on their third string quarterback.
I mean, Kent State lost to St. Francis. So that can't be good. Just saying.
They lost two quarterbacks for the year in that Penn State game.
That's what happens when you play those type of teams. Anyway,
that's true.
Don't do anything bad. All right. Couple important things. One, I actually want to announce, this is brand new too. I mentioned how to get involved. One other way to do that is just get right to the link joins that we are running. And what that means is you have the opportunities. You go to the Tails page, you go to the promos page, and you're going to see right on the website the ability to actually straight link join. And what that means is if you sign up for some of these or any of these, you will get a month of whatever you want, whether you're doing that on the Portfolio V side or you want a month of, say, Matt's Insider Access, mine. That's all you have to do. You do your promo, you sign up, you email our support a screenshot, and you are welcome to do it, and we will get you the code. It's that simple. Another great way to get involved. So if you're saying, man, I'm not on some of these books, it's a great way. You get that, and you get either tools to help you, or you get inside the ropes at one of the Discords. Wanted to make sure we got that in the show, but it is time for the best bets. You got a couple of dollars in the pocket. You're strolling around Mount Pleasant or Kalamazoo, and it's a beautiful day, and someone stops you and they say, hey, what should I do with my money? What are you directing them to?
Strolling. Where's Eastern? Ypsilanti?
Ypsilanti, for sure.
You know where Northern is?
I didn't even know there was a Northern Michigan. Who the hell is that?
They don't play football, and obviously a high level. They do play football. I don't know what level it is, but one of my buddies went there.
Where is that?
Dude, I don't know. Escanaba? Who in the comments knows where Northern Michigan plays football?
I'm trying to think. There are no other schools in Michigan. Oakland's in Michigan, but I would assume they play in Oakland.
There's some greasy schools. Ferris State.
The hell is that?
We're off.
None of these teams play college basketball. If they don't play college basketball, I don't know them.
I think Ferris State's a hockey school.
Yeah, that would like Bemidji State. Isn't that up there?
Didn't Jeff Janis go there? Where did Jeff Janis go?
Let's see. Jeff Janis, former Packer great, Hail Mary specialist. He went to Saginaw Valley State.
Oh, damn it.
What the hell?
That's in Michigan. Saginaw's in Michigan.
It's in University Center. That
Saginaw?
sounds made up. Why wouldn't it just
I thought Saginaw was a city.
It is. That was my next comment. Why is it interest in Saginaw? Yeah, that's it. Detroit Mercy, obviously.
Oh, our favorites.
Yes. Mercy. Antoine Davis. But yeah, I think that's about it. I didn't know. Isn't there a Michigan Tech?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure there is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is too.
Maybe that's in the UP.
Yeah. Well, we'll be prepping for college basketball soon enough, and none of those teams will be relevant, but we're going to have to adjust the time codes. Now we'll get to the best bets. What are we doing here?
All right. I know where you're going for your favorite. It's one of mine too, but I'm going to leave it for you. My other favorites, Liberty, I think -3 is completely fine. Tons of interest in that game. I'm just not really sure App State has it together this year. And Liberty, I think, is a strong buy low. Their box scores indicate their margin of victory should have been wider than what they actually put on the field. A lot of fluky turnover stuff involved in those games. My second one, I'm going to go to, man, this is a tough one. Probably Texas A&M, honestly. I think it might move, so I don't want to bet this right now. But it's another situation where I think you have a buy low candidate in A&M with Marcel Reed. I don't think Wegman plays this week. And Arkansas is just about the ultimate sell high after they should have lost to Auburn. And Auburn shot themselves in the foot a bunch of times.
I'm going to add a couple more. I'm going to go Navy. I definitely like them. I think they just simply grind up UAB on the ground. You mentioned Horvath has been absolutely awesome. Again, I want to be clear. You can wait on these numbers. You don't have to force this in. If you're in Discord, you can wait for my cue or you can just ask when I'm betting it. I'm going to get Marshall. I'm just going to try with all my might to get a 2.5. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. If I have to take 3, I'll take 3. I don't really want to take a 4 or anything like that, but that would be avoidable. Tulsa money line could be on the card. Just wait and see. If you have any questions at all on a game we didn't get to, anything else, Matt_Gajeski, you're always tweeting out really good info about people transfer and hitting the portal, injuries, stuff that matters in these lines and why we're getting it. And of course, that's why you want to get inside the Discord with what he's got going on. And you can follow me at JazzRazBets. This is the week. I'm telling you, I turned the tide a little for the show, and now it's going to be incineration style, thanks to Ferris State and all those other made-up schools that we brought up on this show. On that note, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe. Make sure you're part of the ride here at Betting You. We've got merchandise coming out. I'll keep you posted on that as well. Till next time, guys. Good luck. Enjoy. Talk to you soon.